I kind of look at this decade as what I call a roaring 20s, because last 100 years, it was the 20s that actually brought us here. The car, the aeroplane, the roads and everything. And unfortunately, at the end of the decade, we had that very bad depression. So I hope DeFi is going to help us avoid this kind of problem this time around, right? But anyway, this is something about blockchain that I want to share with you, because we look at this. When we look at the supply chain in Malaysia, here's where blockchain works. It's the data supply chain that it helps support. But when we talk physical supply chain, blockchain is not going to do anything. It's probably going to be robotics, sensors, and this kind of very physical, touchy thing that's going to touch all those things up there. So this is very relevant to a lot of projects that some people have overlooked. They say blockchain is going to solve everything. It doesn't solve everything. It solves very specific problems. Okay, and I think now what's happening in the market is that this one, it used to be from everything blockchain. Now blockchain is a type of DLT, right? So we know all these things are going. We've heard about smart contracts so much about it, and still there's no definite definition about it. A lot of talks about blockchain scaling, or shall I say DLT scaling. We're not sure if blockchain can actually scale to that level anyway, or even desirable to be scaled to that level. So basically this is what we believe in after a lot of studies. This was incorporated in the Malaysian blockchain report. This actually we took from, it was developed by Hewlett Packard. They said there's blockchain 1.0, 2.0 and 3.0. Of course, the 3.0 is the one that we're going for. Intelligent system for all things, cross-sector applications. But basically what he's saying is that eventually blockchain will be very definitive, and it's going to be separated from the other DLT applications. So we look at that because I think in Malaysia we're looking at it to add value. Every time we add a layer of data, things to make it better, there's always cost involved. So the cost must justify what kind of additional value chain that you get, value chain you get from it. So blockchain basically for is that blockchain is a network technology, and it enables sharing and inclusion. And here are some of the Malaysian, there's a lot of it in the world, but I would like to highlight some of the way that Malaysian companies have brought this forward or have done it. Etherscan does block search, right? Block Explorer, and they are doing it big time for Ethereum. And here, this company is probably the first in the world, but not so much known right now at least. It's called Vehicle Telematics Online Services Malaysia. So what happened was this, if you give something or you provide help to people, you can actually manage whether it's being done or be delivered to the actual people that's needed. And also, of course, one of our main thing that we brought about is something to do with Sharia compliance. Is Helgool. Helgool is actually, they have a foundation in Singapore, it's because of the regulation and stuff. But the thing is, a lot of people don't know about Helgool, is that it's not just they provide a platform to do gold transaction. If you know, Southeast Asia is one of the biggest market for retail gold. I don't mean like retail transaction gold. The other one is India, right? So what happened was there's a lot of things going on in the back door. When people give pawn their gold, a lot of people lost it because the auction is done behind closed door among friends, right? The pawnbrokers, or allegedly, that's what we heard, right? So this system, what it does is actually you know exactly how much you buy, exactly how much you sell, or if you pawn it, you know exactly how much it should be sold or bought, right? So everything is out there in the open, and this is how it brought transparencies and inclusion to people who otherwise don't know how to deal with this sort of problem. So that came from Malaysia, right? Okay, just to share a little bit about about this, and I think this is a more popular design you see in the banking system. It's called the BIS money flower, right? A lot of people think, oh, Bitcoin is thing we're gonna change the world and stuff, right? It's true, it's gonna change the world, but only this big of the world. There's a lot more bigger world that it doesn't solve, or it's not gonna touch anyway, because digital money is not new. It's been there forever. The government has done it. A lot of them have failed, but it's good to see that it came out at that point in time, so that we can actually remind ourselves that, you know, there's way for innovation in the monetary system. So I created this in 2018 in response to then what we were planning for TN50. Malaysia wanted to go for what we call TN50. Now it's no longer there, but this one I shared in Manila. If you think about it, you know, NASA is going to have the first human colony in Mars in 2033. This is India genetic materials, not in ours. It's there already, halfway done. You know, many things have gone there except human. But if it's, once we get there, or not us, you know, the generation, your grandchildren maybe, even not even your child, right? If we do get there, right, are you going to still use US dollar or USDT even? You know, I'm sure you're not. Are you going to use gold? So heavy, right? So what is it that you're going to use? This 2033 was a lot earlier than 2050. So if it gets there, what is it that we are looking at? So I think today my main thing is actually to raise more questions in your head rather than give you answers. I want you to think about it and how it's going to impact you or your children. You know, my grandchildren actually, my probably grandchildren. When in 2018, when I showed these, I didn't have this. But now, since then, we have a lot of new stuff coming in, and I think in this decade, we're gonna have a lot more things. Definitely is one of them, but I think there's gonna be more coming up before we get to this part, right? So, okay. And then, when we first started this crypto thing, the blockchain thing, I think a lot of people kind of look at one particular area or perspective. But here's a good thing to look at. What's so good about it? It was promising self-regulation, which it hasn't, right? Say try fast, fail fast, move on. Okay, that works, right? Also scams. And it opens access to technology. Yes, definitely, that's a good one, because a lot more people now can access to a lot of things through open system, especially like Ethereum, who actually put their IP on open source IP rule regulation. So you know, a lot of people now that's doing work on blockchain would never get access to that sort of technology, right? And then we say, okay, decentralized and transparent, yes. But equitable, maybe not. Decentralized and transparent, yes. And here's something that totally Malaysian. If for you, in case you missed it, the Malaysian government has been trying to push for industry-led initiatives since 2011, or what we call the RMK10, right? So it hasn't worked. But when blockchain and crypto came out, you could see like everybody from down up going into and wanting to do something for the industry, and that's very good. So I hope eventually, or 3 years to 5 years down the road, that's going to happen, because things are still growing at this point in time. So here's what Harpreet's going to talk to you later, right? I'm not going to go over that. And then here's some of the unique values from the sharing economy that as we know it. It's a willing buyer, willing seller, or trust between the buyer and seller, right? But of course, this has been played out so much, you know, it depends who trusts who, right? And can you actually trust at arm's length? And then we say this is probably the best part of it, is the using of idle resources. And this is actually partial or actually beneficial to the big players, right? The platforms. Right? The Uber, now the Grab wanting to be something big. It's good for them, but is it good for the other side? So all these questions are coming out. And then we say, okay, centralized platform. Again, all those things just now that we talk about. It's not necessarily bad, it's not necessarily good, yeah? Industry-led initiative, yes. because then that provides the motive of why we're doing it. And again, this one, hardware is going to cover it, so I'm going to cover it. Okay, so I'm just going to share with you where Malaysia is going with this blockchain and a little bit about the sharing economy. This was what, after the work of 3 years' work, this was recommendations by the stakeholders. These are the areas that we want to go. We are hoping that Malaysia will go towards this way rather than go like individual technologies. We should look at it as a ABCDI kind of technologies. It has to come in a cluster. It's because of that thing just now. We were talking the data supply chain and the physical supply chain. You cannot actually separate them. The physical maybe, but the back end, you know, they got to serve somebody, right? And his all these things, exploring open source and social capital, all these are actually also shared in the Malaysian new document called the shared prosperity vision, correct? SPD, right? Shared prosperity vision in 2030. So we are quite parallel to that. We are very, I didn't say this, these are people like yourself who actually want to do this. And we said, okay, we should welcome new business model. And actually, sharing economy is actually a new business model about, what, 5-10 years ago. I think we're ready to go elsewhere. And these are things that we all need to do, you know, Futurize and myself and a few other people. Here it is, shared prosperity, and here's what we want to do. We are hoping that, you know, the private will lead this by the end of at least a few more years. Okay, here's what, when we did this also, we benchmarked Singapore versus Europe. Of course, Europe is a lot more group kind of work, right? They have a lot of this clustering work. But in ASEAN, a lot of people have a lot of challenges to handle within the country itself. So, and the level of development is totally different from each other. So I think on this end, Singapore has gone a lot faster. Their IMDA has created this and how to put all the technologies together. And actually tomorrow they're going to do something big on mesh network as well. So I think here I have explained why we do this, and I think we should work with Singapore or, you know, benchmark Singapore on how we should go forward. And this was also from the stakeholders. So I just want to add this one here. There's a $25 million allocation for proof of concept and IP that relates to blockchain technology. That's under KKMM. Yeah? So, I think I've said to a number of people here, I don't agree with this centralized sharing economy. But it's not the fault of the sharing economy, it's the way it's being done, right? As second layer, it's not that the whole concept of sharing economy that's bad. It's the way you do it. But you know, like everything else, if there is a need to move, then there is a need to move. And I think blockchain can help us in terms of decentralizing a lot of the bad things from the centralized system, right? So I think this also not for me. Most of these, a lot of people are crying for a fair compensation system, not just for Grab and, you know, car system and stuff, ride hailing. And then we want to keep the competition open so that smaller economies like Malaysia can actually compete, even if it's a small market. And again, for Malaysia, we should encourage innovation in small scale in emerging markets. And actually, we can use blockchain or digital network to enhance societies. That depends on how creative you are and on the application. So here's some of the examples that are already in the sharing economy in Malaysia. There's Makcik Travels, which actually concentrates on women only, right-handed. And Mula, that C is actually something like Lazuz in Israel, which is actually, I'm sharing your ride somewhere, right? Friends with friends. And here, interesting, this is government's effort. It's done by MDEC. It's called e-Rezeki. So they actually provide jobs for people on this platform, right? So that's what I think I want to share right now. I hope it helps in some way.
To share with everyone. With that, okay, we've already run out of time. Kama's also supposed to leave already. So thank you very much for joining us. Can everybody please